Oh,
Not your brownies.
I was like, what?
Who's got brownies? What? Brownies?
Did someone say brownies?
If people only knew our conversations that happen
Yeah,
in the preload show.
they don't hear the banter, and maybe one of these days we really should
Just open it up.
open it up and say, "Hey, everybody, we're gonna have
Like,
we're gonna have a pure banter show, nothing but banter, nothing but bloopers." Here's a part of the blooper reel.
Oh my god, we would just beat the living bejeebas out of each other. It'd be fun because I mean we abuse each other pretty good. Well, probably me more abusing you.
I can take it.
You got tough skin.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
Guys, we'll be with you in less than 30 seconds. We're getting better at this. We've narrowed down our time for sharing. It's been pretty good. I'm pretty proud of us, if I don't say so myself.
Well, then don't say so yourself.
I want to see the banter. You gotta stop. Making me go crazy. I'm gonna unleash something on you.
Oh, come on! You're out of whoop tushy.
All right, are you ready to rock and roll?
1 second. But the answer is generally yes. Hi, everybody.
All right.
I am ready when you are.
Okay. I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Fantastic Memories Travel and the Mouse Master Travel Group. The Mouse Master Travel Group focuses on Disney destination vacations, and the Mouse Master agents would love to take care of the stressful parts of your vacation planning so you can focus on the fun. You can find them out mousemastertravel.com. MickeyMonthly.com brings you a monthly surprise box of Disney goodies direct from the Disney parks each month. MickeyMonthly.com curates the perfect custom box for your family and has options including Disney trading pins, Main Street snacks, and authentic Disney parks merchandise. Packages start at only $7. Cure your Disney withdrawal today by heading over to MickeyMonthly.com and use our special code RADIO35, that's RADIO 35, to save 35% off your first box. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Streaming Disney proudly presents Behind the Ears Podcast. Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Ears Podcast. I am Uncle Danny. Alongside of me tonight on this fantastic evening is Mr. Chris. Sir, how are you doing?
I am doing pretty well tonight. How are you doing tonight as well?
I'm enjoying the evening. It's been some great weather up here. We have Memorial Day weekend right around the corner, so I'm excited. And, heck, I'm under 20 days to my trip. I think I'm getting closer to 15 than anything else. I don't have the exact number. I think it's 16.
Ooh, man. That's, have you started packing?
No.
I know it seems like a really weird question to ask, but the fact of the matter is, there are people like, when do you start packing? I'm like, I don't really ever unpack from the last trip. I mean,
yeah,
you kind of like take a big suitcase, you take all the clothes out of it, you wash them really quick, you put them back in the suitcase, and you just put the suitcase back in a place where you can find it, and then you don't have to really worry about packing again.
Yeah,
I really wish that was fully true, but
that'd be awesome, right?
We do have our stashes at home where, everything is kind of stored in between trips and stuff like that. So it's usually a pretty good time. We're usually packing at least 2 to 3 weeks before we leave.
Well, once again, everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Ears Podcast. I am Uncle Danny. This is Mr. Chris. I've seen a couple interesting questions come across. Rwanda says, good evening. Hope you're feeling better tonight, Danny. And I am. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Looks like I'm finally getting over this upper respiratory infection. Still got a little bit of a cough, so excuse me if you hear a little background noise. Megan would like to know, do you all work at Disney? Unfortunately, no, we do not work.
I'd like to say not at this time.
Not at the present moment. Do y'all do Disney voices? Yeah. Somewhat.
Crazy. Anytime I want to do a Disney voice on my own, I can do it. But anytime anybody asks me, see, I can't do. I want to do Goofy. I can't even really do Goofy.
That's a tough one.
No, I can't do it on demand. I really can't.
No, that's really tough. It really is. You'll hear a little bit of stuff. Me and Chris also have our own personas and little people we've made up for the show. So, and let's see. Carissa says, love your show. I even have my 18-year-old daughter watching now, too. Give her a shout out. Her name is Brianna. Brianna, how are you?
Hey, Brianna. How you doing?
How's everybody doing? Yeah, we got a lot of new faces in here, which is awesome, but let's get rocking and rolling. So tonight, we are going to do a little oldie, and what we're going to talk about is resorts. We're going to break it down into a couple different categories, so make sure you stay tuned for the entire episode. If you're new to the show, our show usually runs between 45 minutes to an hour. But tonight's show, we are going to touch on – we're going to rank our favorite hotel in each category, meaning deluxe, value, and moderate. We're going to rank our least favorite in each category. Chris is going to do a little special number for you guys about DVC. We'll dive into DVC a little bit, and we're going to leave you guys with a cliffhanger for the end of the show, and it's going to be me and Chris's idea on what is our if we were Disney Imagineers and we were building a hotel, where would we put it and what would it be? So with that being said, Chris, let's start out with, we will go from low to high. What is your favorite value resort?
Okay, so favorite value. Well, I'm going to say this one, but I'm also going to put an asterisk by it. And that is, I really enjoy all-star movies. I really enjoy it. I am a big movie fan. I love the movie motif. I just think it's really, really cool. I really enjoy it. I think the persona of the movies really gets to me. I really just have a lot of fun with it. It's really cool. Now, the asterisk to it is that there's only one that I really haven't stayed at, and that is Art of Animation, staying there later this summer. So we may have to do this again towards the fall, and who knows if my ranking will be different then. But, the thing is about the Movies Resort is because I'm such a big movie buff, I enjoy the idea of just being kind of enveloped in the movies. In fact, the first time I stayed there, I stayed in a Herbie room. It was all decorated Herbie the Love Bug. And to be very honest, when I was a little kid, I remember reading all of the Herbie books. And I just loved it. It just brought back a lot of really cool memories. They had like the movie poster for Herbie and stuff like that. It's still today. It's one of my favorite classic Disney movies. And it just was a whole lot of fun. So there you have it. That's my favorite value resort.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I was sorry. I had too many things going through my mind with the volumes. All right. Favorite would probably have to be Pop Century.
Oh yeah.
It's a clean look. It very well maintained grounds. Not saying that others aren't.
True. It is.
I feel like take Art of Animation out of it because obviously it's the newest, and I have not been lucky enough to stay on property at that resort yet. So if we take that one out, I feel like they maintain their grounds the best. The rooms are they're bright, they're colorful. Mm-hmm. Things just seem to run smoothly inside that hotel. Now, with that being said, I had a shot to stay at Pop in a couple days when I'm heading down there, and I actually opted for Sports because the last time I was at Sports was 1996.
Okay.
So I want to give it a whirl. I can't really knock it and say, maybe when I get down there, Sports might be a completely different ballgame. I remembered enjoying it, but it didn't leave a lasting impression on me. So maybe when I get down there, this conversation might change a little bit.
Well, the funny part is about Sports, and people tend to throw this out there as a warning that if you go down there during the time where there are youth sports programs, teams that are like visiting Disney at that time, they tend to stay at All-Star Sports a lot.
Makes sense.
Yeah, which it does. I mean, it's kind of apropos if you look at it that way. But the funny part is everybody's like, just stay away from sports when the youth come around because it's just all really crazy and everything. But I was just like, it's really not that bad. But let them have fun. It's going to be a good time regardless.
Yeah, there's a voice for you.
Yeah, tell me about it.
All right, so I'll start off with my least favorite inside the value section, and that is going to be music.
Why? That's kind of a
It's a tough one.
it's kind of a bold statement, though, if you think about it.
Well,
Is it the motif, or is it just?
here's the thing. Sports and music are so close. I feel like they're identical resorts, just with different theming. It's hard to be like, oh yeah, this one's better than this. I don't have an exact reason why, more than the fact of I just not the biggest fan of their decor. It's not that their rooms are smaller or darker or the staff is unfriendly there. It's just honestly, there aren't many options in the value resort. You know, if I already said Pop is my favorite, we're not counting Art of Animation. That only leads to.
Okay,
So to me, it's
see
a
that.
coin flop between. Excuse me,
Coin flop.
a coin flip in between the two, and I'm hoping that music, loses, and it's the worst because I'm staying at sports in a couple days. So once again, this could all change as soon as we get down there. But until then, I'm gonna have to just stick with my guns and say music is the one that I least like.
Well, let me throw a little monkey wrench into the question, though. The rooms themselves are all about the same size, so you're getting about the same room. You're really just getting different decorations and so on and so forth in the room as well as outside of the room. What about comparing, say, food courts or lobby areas between your two resorts that you picked? Or is that kind of a tough question?
That's tough because I really feel like they're identical hotels, just with different theming.
Okay.
I really don't see an overall difference. Shanna is right. I made a mistake. It does not leave the 2. It leaves the 3. I forgot about movies, music.
I was going to say, forget about movies, but...
Oh, yes, I did forget about movies. Oh, geez. I mean, you pose an interesting question, but I really feel like it's the mirror effect and just saying that they are identical in every single way except theming.
Well, the reason why I ask is because my least favorite of the values, and I'm sure I'm going to catch some stuff for this. Okay, I really understand that. I'm not really a super big fan of Pop Century, and I know it's going to come as a surprise, but let me explain. Again, the rooms are pretty much the same. That's kind of a given.
Yeah.
The decor is pretty much the same, but it seems like everybody flocks to Pop Century, and therefore it becomes more crowded. It becomes, a little more chaotic. And because people focus, their time there, it's just, it's not as relaxing in a way for a value resort. Out of all the food courts I've been to, the time that we actually spent at the food court over at Pop Century, things were not taken care of all that well. It was very cluttered. The food selection was good, but it was just like any other food court. It just didn't seem like it was kept up as much, especially considering the large volume of guests that had to be there at one time. Didn't necessarily have the same experience over at movies. And I do realize that this is a your mileage may vary type of scenario. So I'll still stay at Pop Century. I'll stay there with no problem, no question. Still a very nice resort. I like it. It's just, it's not my favorite.
Okay. And I can respect that. I can. So let's head over to the moderates. You started last time, so I will go first. But I'm going to change it up, and I'm going to give you my least favorite. Now,
okay.
With that being said, if you do not consider this a moderate, because technically by Disney standards, it is listed as a moderate, we'll go, I can change it.
Okay.
Mine is going to be the cabins at Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort.
Okay. And I think that's a little bit of a different type of scenario, but if Disney listed as a moderate resort, I think it's fair game.
Yeah. Now, granted, for the value, it also listed their campground as a value, and I never. And you kind of almost forget about it. So not in a mean way, but sometimes you just kind of forget that they would be classified in that because it is a campground. But But all right, so I'm going to stick with what I was saying, which is going to be the cabins. Listen, I think I'm not an outdoorsy person. I know Chris goes camping with his son a lot. He'll have a different outlook on me. To me, I do not want to go sit in a cabin, especially when I'm at Disney. But here's the biggest thing that really turned me off. On an average night, you're talking about $300 to stay in the cabin.
But you're also talking about $300 to stay in a cabin that sleeps 6 that has a full kitchen.
And I get that. But we're talking for me and your own personal agenda. I don't need a room that sleeps 6.
Good point. I mean, it is a nice, moderate alternative to getting 2 rooms if you have a family of 5 or 6.
I'm not the biggest fan of the decor. Once again, it could be because I'm not the biggest outdoorsy. But I will tell you, a plus side for it is technically part of Fort Wilderness. I think a Valley Resort.
Right.
So.
I mean, I completely get your reasoning behind it. Not everybody wants to be out, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, if you think about it. Because, I mean, you have to take a bus to get to the buses. I mean, it's a very spread out resort. I mean, everybody says, "Oh my gosh, this particular resort is so spread out. It takes me forever to get to the bus stop." Well, the funny part about it is that you actually have to take a bus to get to the bus. And at the same time, you have to take a bus to get back to where you're staying. I mean, It's so big, people actually rent golf carts in order to get from one place to another. So, yeah, I mean, it's not exactly the most convenient, but for some people, they like it because it has features that they need for their family. I get your reasoning. I really do.
And like I've seen a lot of people say, "Hey, listen, we're not campers. We really enjoyed it." But on the same token, I've literally read, "Don't like Coronado, loved Coronado. Don't like Caribbean, love Caribbean." And it's kind of like, listen, everybody has their own taste. And just to me, it just turned me off. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I stayed there once, won't do it again. But hey, you live and you learn. Maybe one day, if I have kids, knock on wood, maybe they'll want to stay there, and I'll have to just, eat one for the team. Or if it just makes more sense if you're going with a larger family and you do get the kitchen. But personally, that is the one that least favorite one. So, Chris, where are you at your least favorite for moderates?
I like all the moderates. I'll go ahead and say it right now. But I will say that if I had to rank them, while I liked Caribbean Beach, it's probably the one that I will stay at the least, or it'll be like my last choice. I will say that because it is very spread out. I really think that the pool area is great. I'll say that. But if you have to walk a mile in order to get to it, that's just a lot of walking. At the same time, I will say that their food court is really good. Shutters is a nice little restaurant that probably no one outside of the resort really actually goes out of their way to go to. It's a really good resort, but it's just not my style, right? I mean, it's just there are other moderate resorts that I will definitely stay at. I will stay at Caribbean Beach. It's not a problem. It's still a nice resort. It's just not my top one. And I will say this. It is a favorite among families, mainly because, again, the pool area is so big and spread out. But at the same time, it is big and spread. The whole place is big and spread out. And I'm not really into the big and spread out bit.
No, I get it. So let's move on to our favorites in the moderate. And if you are an avid listener of the show, or if you're new, welcome. But you all will know that I am a huge Riverside fan. Just got back in March from Riverside. I cannot speak highly enough for Riverside, but I will try. It's usually a decently priced hotel. Right now, I'm on Disney's website. It's going for $224 a night if you wanted to check in tonight. Not terrible at all. That's pretty much middle of the road, speaking in lines of a moderate.
Sure.
You're talking about, you've got pools with water slides that they call, the hideaway swimming hole. There's 3+ acres of play area for kids designed with pools and walking and everything.
Right.
Let's not forget you've got Yeehaw Bob.
Yo,
Um,
yep, that's definitely a case.
let's talk about the royal guest rooms, which if you haven't seen, like they'll have the back wall that lights up and there's special effects that go along with it. It's a very tranquil resort.
Oh
In
yeah.
the sense of, if you get back there late at night, and especially if you're asking my opinion, I would prefer to stay in the Alligator Bayou section. It just, boy oh boy, can you
It's
really
peaceful.
can you escape from the mundane of nonsense going on?
Right.
The food is great. If you want a quick burger at night and you stop by the dining real quick, I recommend the Bayou Burger. It's a burger with cheese and mozzarella cheese, the burger, and then a fried green tomato on top. It was absolutely fantastic. Just like anywhere else, it's okay food, nothing to go crazy about. But yeah, that is going to be my guess.
I'll also say that I forgot the name, Boatwrights. Their table service eatery there, very, very good. And I haven't been there in a little while. I'd love to go back there. Very good food. I had a nice Cajun type dish of like seafood, mussels and everything else like that. And because I'm not at that time, I should say, I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of spices. They're like, we blacken it. So how spicy do you want it? I said, probably like this. And they're like, okay, great. It was perfectly done. It started off my vacation with a big smile on my face from that meal. It was really, really good. So I would definitely agree with that.
I want to say something real quick because I had two questions I want to see. But Todd had said Riverside is great, but the rooms are small. I did not come across that. I didn't think the rooms were small at all. And that could just be my interpretation of room sizes. But when you walk in, they still had their table with 2 chairs, still that little wide open area. You had 2 queen size beds. You had the TV, the dresser with the pull-out bed, the refrigerator. The sinks are separated from the toilet and the shower. I thought they were a very nice sized room. I really didn't see many options of going bigger without, paying that extra money for it. But hey, however you decide what you think is this proper size for a room, that is to his own to decide that. I thought they were okay. But Kevin says, hey guys, as far as the moderates go, how do you rank transportation? Before we answer that, I want Chris to answer what his favorite is.
Well, let me actually make one more comment just to add to what you said. Back a number of years ago, Riverside and other moderates only had full-size beds in them. When they went through a renovation several years ago, they actually upgraded to queen-size beds. That did give the rooms a slightly smaller appearance because obviously the queen beds took up more space. But the rooms I do think are just slightly bigger than values. But the queen size beds make it feel a little bit smaller. I'll take that. I'll take the queen size beds. That was the best thing that they ever did. Ever. So as for my favorite moderate, normally I would have to say Riverside, but I did stay at French Quarter. And to be honest with you, I fell in love with French Quarter. It was one of those times where we were only going to stay a couple nights before our DVC stay portion of our trip. And all I have to say is it was absolutely fantastic. I just fell in love with the theming of the resort. I fell in love with, just waking up I opened up my door and there is the Sassagoula River, kind of going through, and I just really super enjoyed it. Both of them, I will say, are very quaint resorts. French Quarter is, the smallest of all the moderates, so it does fill up quite quickly. But I'll tell you, walking from my the building that my room was in to the main building where the food court was. And the food court is relatively small, but boy, the food was delicious. The pool area was great. I mean, seriously, I as much as I love Riverside, I mean, Riverside is just right up there. I really super enjoy Riverside, but I would definitely stay at French Quarter again.
Yeah, French Quarter is beautiful. My only thing I didn't like about French Quarter is I felt like the decor was a little bit dark.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the
theming.
That is the theming. I understand what you mean, though, and that was I think that was the thing that kind of turned me off to it at first until I actually experienced it firsthand. Because, like you, I mean, Riverside, I mainly stayed at like Magnolia Bend, which is on the other side from where you were at over at Alligator Bayou. I love the plantation feel. Now that kind of brings me back a little bit to some of the southern plantations of the South that I thought just had beautiful architecture and so on to it. So, I mean, there's a little bit of, family history, in the South, in touring plantations and stuff like that when I was little. But yeah, I mean, I love the decorum there. And both of them, I'll tell you right now, there are people that purposely stay at either one of those resorts just to go jogging the trails.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you're a runner and you like to include that as a part of your repertoire on your vacation, give that a try. I've heard nothing but great things about it.
Yeah, it's funny that you brought up running because my next comment when you were finished was going to be the walking areas, are great for you and your family to enjoy some time. It's also a great time to go on a romantic stroll with your significant other. Or if you're like me, it's a great time to just pop on the headphones, download your favorite episode of Behind the Ears podcast, and take in the scenery.
Sure.
Cheesy plug for us. But so before we go on to the values, we've had a few people asking us, let's talk transportation inside the moderate. Well, the one nice thing about Port Orleans, Riverside, and French Quarter is not only do you have the buses like you would have in any other resort, but you also have the option of taking a riverboat. Speaking just from Riverside, it's a bit of a pain, but you can take the boat from Riverside right past Saratoga and take it right to Disney Springs.
That's correct.
And then you can get off of that boat and then take another boat to either Hollywood Studios or Epcot. Am I right?
Nope.
No?
Nope. What it is that you can take a boat from Port Orleans, Riverside, as well as French Quarter. It'll drop you off. It'll drop you off over at Disney Springs, and I can't remember exactly which station it is, but there are other basically you can go and pick up another boat to go to a different station within the Disney Springs area, or you can take a boat to go over to Saratoga if you really want to, or you can take you can actually Saratoga.
I wasn't waving no to you. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I was waving no to a question that I put up there.
Sorry, my bad.
That's okay.
To Saratoga, to the west side over by where Cirque du Soleil and House of Blues is, or even a boat to go over to Old Key West. Now, I mean, those are just different things that you can do during for the waterways that they have there. I just love the boat rides there. And they do run a little bit shorter of a time frame, and also the only downside to it is that if for some reason there are lightning storms in the area, they shut those boats down, which can cause a lot of transportation problems because now you got to figure out how to get back there, which is usually only by bus. And we know that sometimes the bus transportation from Disney Springs is something to be desired, respectfully speaking.
Yeah. Speaking for the busing service, I mean, it's not as bad as the value. It's still a bit of a hassle depending on which one you stay. Like, I know Riverside has 4 bus depot stops.
Something like that.
And I think Port Orleans has 4 or 5.
Well, actually, Riverside has 4 or 5. I can't remember.
It's 4.
And French Quarter has just 1. Because it's just the one that's in the front.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
That is right. That's right.
But as for like Coronado, which is one that neither one of us touched on, that has several that goes through an internal loop. And then they also have, several stops to go over at Caribbean Beach. So the thing is that you do kind of have to, understand that sometimes location is good, but then also location may cause you to be on a bus a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, depending on how you look at it. Regardless of where you stay, though, you're going to be on a bus through an internal loop.
Yeah. Unless you're lucky enough to stay at Port Orleans, French Quarter.
In French Quarter, you're right. But even then right. But then you got to walk a little bit to the bus stop.
Exactly, depending on where you are. The other thing I remember about Port Orleans, they don't really have many second story rooms, or if they have any at all.
No, they do. They have some.
But it's not as much as what you would normally see.
Right, that is correct.
Yeah, because I remember when we stayed for my sister's wedding in 2011, I stayed there for 4 nights, and the Grand Floridian the top that night, the week off. But I remember being on the floor and being like, wow, it's kind of cool that no one's above me. Like, there's no noise. And then after being down there in March, having that beautiful balcony to overlook the swampy area of Riverside, I was like,
right.
yeah, I can get down with this.
I know that Samuro was just asking the question about what do I mean by an internal loop? Let me help address that really quick. If like for the values, and as I mentioned for French Quarter, the bus will pull into that particular resort. It has one stop that it goes to, and that's it. You board and disembark the bus at the same location. Many of the other resorts, such as a lot of the moderates, and I'm just trying to think really quick. It's mainly just the moderates, and also like Saratoga will also do this. Also, so for Old Key West will do this. They have, I call it an internal loop, which is basically a loop of stops that they have to make in order to, before they actually exit. So you actually have multiple stops, throughout the particular resort in order to, get from place to place. So sometimes, depending on where you're actually at, you may, and it may only take, say, 10 minutes to get to the resort, but you may be on the bus for another 7 to 10 minutes if you are on the last stop. So there are some things to take into consideration. Because here's the thing: if you're like on that first stop, you're going to be the first on the bus first thing in the morning. You're guaranteed to get yourself a seat. You're also going to be the first stop, first people off the bus when you come back from the resorts. Problem of it is that you still have to be on that bus for another 10 minutes before you actually get off that resort property. At the same time, if you are the last stop there, it's going to be hard for you to get a seat on the bus, and you're going to be waiting to get off the bus at the end of the after the end. Yeah, easy for me to say, but at the end of a park day.
All right, so let's head on over to the magical and most highly talked about deluxe hotels inside Disney. So, Chris, I hand you the torch. You decide what you want to start with, good or bad.
Let's start with bad.
Okay.
And it's hard to say bad when you're talking about these deluxe resorts that are awesome.
Yep. What do you got for us? You go first.
Okay. So I'm going to put my invisible bulletproof vest on.
I hope you don't take mine.
Well, because here's the deal. Believe it or not, I am not a fan of the Contemporary.
Oh, son of a gun.
Did I take yours?
Yeah.
Okay, but so let me explain why. I liked the Contemporary. Beautiful resort. The rooms are huge and very well done. Very comfortable. Loved it. Last couple times I stayed there, I had, a theme park view. Absolutely stunning. But let me tell you a little something. I know everybody likes to stay in the monorail resorts. And I love going there, especially to Chef Mickey's. Love Chef Mickey's. But here's the deal. Getting on the monorail and stuff like that, not a big deal. Going to Magic Kingdom, no big deal. In fact, I would say skip the monorail if you're going to the Magic Kingdom. Walk over there; it's a whole lot faster. And believe me, that is a great feature of that resort. Is just being able to walk right over to the Magic Kingdom and then walk back, and it's so simple. But here's the deal: if you want to go to Epcot, you take the monorail. You have to go to the TTC. Get on another monorail. You have to transfer. And all that time is that it takes time to wait for your first monorail. It takes time to transfer to the second monorail. Then it takes time to go over to Epcot. And then on the way back, you are waiting in line, big lines at the monorail station to basically reverse trip.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something about the bus service at the Contemporary. It is not very efficient. There's one bus stop. That's okay. That's not the problem. But it just seems like it takes forever because it's not a dedicated bus stop. In other words, you get on the bus and it may stop at like the Poly, or it may stop also at the Wilderness Lodge or something like that. The fact is that it's not going to be the only place that you're going to go. So it's not great for transportation. So that's the reasoning behind it. Other than that, I love the pool areas. As I said, the resort is good. Oh, but let me also throw in one more thing. You have the big tower, okay? And you have one set of elevators for the whole building, okay? And what ends up happening is that you've got people that have to take the elevator from the main floor, or, basically like say the level that Chef Mickey's is on, going up to the, level, their first level of, rooms. So it's kind of like, oh my gosh, really, you're taking it up 2 floors, because there's no other way for them to do it. And last time I was up there, I was like in like 9th or 10th floor. I mean, I was actually quite high, and it just seemed like it took forever to go up the elevators. It's just one of those things. And then I like to take stairways going downward if I absolutely can. And you couldn't do that because the exit would basically take you outside on the lower level. So that's just a little nit. That's really not a big deal.
So why don't you keep at that bulletproof vest and let me jump on behind you? Because growing up, I absolutely loved the Contemporary.
Sure.
It was bugged my parents to stay there all the time. I thought it was the coolest concept, architect-wise, to be able to build this building and have a monorail run through it.
I mean, that you're right, man. That's totally epic. I mean, the whole design and the history of that resort is phenomenal. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, get me wrong, it's a wonderful resort, but I think you and I are, I've touched on mine. I'd love to hear yours now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. The great thing is you can walk to Magic Kingdom from the Contemporary. Pamela asked what resort has the best views of Magic Kingdom? The Contemporary, in my personal opinion.
Oh, I completely agree.
Here's the thing. Such a cool concept to have a monorail go through your hotel until you're actually in the hotel. The monorail continuously goes through the hotel.
Why do you say that?
To me, it's just an annoying sound, just constantly. And because you never have that tranquil piece of being able to walk to the center of your hotel, maybe going into the shop or going to Chef Mickey's, because you have that constant flow of people. Yeah, not even that, but also the constant flow of people waiting to go up the escalator, waiting to go down the escalator. Who's getting on? Who's getting off? Billy doesn't want to get out of the way of the door being shut. The mom's chasing Billy down the stair. It's just, to me, it's a gorgeous hotel. But when I say gorgeous, I must have to say, excuse me, getting tongue twisted there, I feel it's very blah. It's very gray. It's very monotone. There is no oh, wow, look at this hotel. There's nothing that's eye-catching. I think what's eye-catching about the resort is the fact that a monorail goes to the hotel.
Okay, let's touch on this for a second, because I kind of agree with you. It is obviously called the Contemporary Resort, and it's filled with a lot of contemporary design cues, right? I mean, yes. There's a lot of stainless steel. There's a lot of monochrome. There's a lot of shiny black. There's a lot of, there's a lot of lights. There's a lot of mirrors. I mean, it's just really cool designs. However, I think it's contemporary, but I think would it be safe to say it's a little dated contemporary?
Thank you.
Okay. I mean, think about it. I mean, is contemporary what it was 10, 15 years ago the same as it is contemporary today? I don't know. I'm not a designer interior. I'll be really honest with everybody. I mean, as you can see, I got pictures of my walls, but I still got the same old linen colored walls when I built my house 10 years ago. So, I mean, obviously I don't do a whole lot, but it just seems like it can use a new modern touch.
And that's what I wanted to say when you had jumped in, so it's perfectly fine that you said it. If you're going to call your hotel the Contemporary and base your design off of that, you need to always stay modern. Mm-hmm. And it's not. That's very 80s, 90s industrial look. That was the look that was in. And absolutely, when it was that was above its time when they first built it.
Sure.
It's a little time to, paint the walls a little bit, get it rocking and rolling. Those monotone colors are not really in anymore. And once again, Chris nor myself are interior designers. Maybe I'm just talking from a dumb man's perspective. But hey, that's the whole point of having this conversation. Now, there are plenty of great things that come out of the contemporary, such as Chef Mickey's, the oversized room, being walking distance to Magic Kingdom, the monorail. Let's not forget the fantastic gift shop they have in there, which you can get very unique things in there for special occasions like weddings and things along that nature. Gorgeous, gorgeous settings.
Fabulous artwork.
Yes.
Someone made comment about the Mary Blair mural that's up, the entire part of the corridor of the resort. It's absolutely stunning. It's really cool. And someone said it was kind of a mix of retro and contemporary. Yeah, contemporary can be retro. You could have retro contemporary too. I totally get it. The Mary Blair artwork is amazing. Absolutely. Nancy, that's a good point. Mid-century modern, or that would be kind of cool, to kind of think of it that way. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Danny. It's just, it is what it is. I love the hotel. It's,
Yeah, it's hard to knock. It's hard to knock any of the Disney hotels because I really think they did a good job with all of them. But it's especially hard to knock one that's
like the
on the monorail. Yeah, and the original, it's on the monorail loop, and it's one of the more expensive ones every night. But we digress. Hey, me and Chris shared it, but I know for a fact me and Chris are going to be on different with our favorites. So, Mr. Chris, what is your favorite?
Now, I really have it. I struggle with this question all the time. And again, I'm going to reserve the right to possibly change my answer if we revisit this in 6 months. And the reason is that I almost have a tie. And the tie is between the lodges. That's right. Animal Kingdom Lodge and Wilderness Lodge. Let me explain. Both of those lodges are just phenomenal in their design, and they were pretty much designed by the same architects and so on. They both have some very similar architectural cues, and they're both so grand. I love the Wilderness Lodge because I can actually sit in their lobby, and I don't have to go anywhere. I can just sit there, and I'll feel relaxed. There was a time where I was still in school and I was doing my courses online. I went to Animal Kingdom Lodge and I had to do some homework after a whole day at the parks. I sat in a lobby until like 1:30 in the morning doing my homework, and I thought to myself, what coolest place to do homework than the lobby of the Animal Kingdom Lodge? But, I will still say that if I had my choice, and you'll understand why in a little bit, I will say the Wilderness Lodge to me edges it out a little bit just as my favorite. But the thing of it is that it's just such a relaxing resort. To me, it's calming. It makes me feel like I'm in the outdoors without actually having to be in the outdoors. Again, I could sit there and just not do anything. My family can go to the parks without me. I'll sit there. Let me sit there for 8 hours. I guarantee you my blood pressure will drop. I'll be happy as a clam. The whole shoot and shebang just by being there. The restaurants there are absolutely fabulous. I still want to try Artist Point there, their signature dining there. I definitely want to try some of the new offerings they have there. They just opened up this past spring. So and then granted, some people have said it's too dark. Well, they've actually changed a lot of things in the rooms from what I understand. And I'll find that out more this summer when I stay there. But we'll be staying over in the DVC portion of it. But yeah, I just love it. I think it was my first deluxe resort experience at Walt Disney World, and I still say to this day it's one of my favorite deluxe resorts.
Interesting, but I kind of knew where you were going with that anyway, because once again we've had these conversations. So, along with what Chris said, I had a very, very tough time deciding where I wanted to go. I've been lucky enough to stay at both of these. I was lucky enough to stay at club level at both of these. So I've been able to.
Which one is these?
I've been able to experience both ends of it. My top two is going to be Beach Club and the Polynesian. And I say by a very, very small margin that the Poly is going to win out.
Oh, I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
I mean, and it has nothing to do with Beach is a fantastic thing. There's just a couple minute things that I wish Beach would do differently, which made it lose out. But, let's touch on the whole idea of the Polynesian.
Sure.
It is a modern luxury hotel with very whimsical touches of, the past. There's so many convenient amenities. The restaurants are fantastic. I believe the decor is some of the best you'll see on Disney property. So unique to the Polynesian,
especially outside.
Heritage. Yes.
I think the exterior decor of the Poly makes it. I don't necessarily think that their lobby's nice and all that. I think since they took out the fountain and stuff there, which they needed to clean that up anyway, but I think taking the fountain out in the center really kind of hurt it. But it's the outside that just makes you think that you're in the tropics. And being that, when you go to Florida, it's already 100% humidity. You're halfway there. So
yeah, here's the thing with Poly is I've heard and I've felt it a couple times, like, man, sometimes you can walk to your hotel. There is sometimes, depending on what building you're in and what, coming from the main lobby, you might have a bit of a walk. It's one of the few places where that walk, no matter how long it really is, goes by so fast because there's so much going on. Mm-hmm. I think some of the outside buildings could use a bit of updating. I think they've kind of looked the same way for about 20 years now. Not saying they're peeling or anything like that, but they do have a bit of an older touch to it. But with that being said, I mean, how can you go wrong? I mean, listen to some of these options you have. You've got Ohana's Best Friends Breakfast, which has Stitch in it, and you can get Stitch juice. It's a crazy bunch of different fruits. It's fantastic. They have Kona Cafe. They've got Ohana. They've got the Tambu Lounge. They've got Captain Cook's. They've got the Barefoot Pool Bar, which is top notch.
I haven't tried that, but I will say Captain Cook's. Everybody got to tell you something. If you want to go get away from the parks for lunchtime, go to Captain Cook's. Seriously awesome food. I mean, it's good. Portions are phenomenal, big enough to share. And, of course, you can go right over to the Pineapple and I for the best thing that you can have. Dole Whips. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what really puts the icing on the cake, and I think which I would say is probably going to be the one thing that really set Poly to that next level above Beach, would be Trader Sam's Grotto.
Which I haven't been to yet, but I know that we talked about the last time, and I know that you thoroughly enjoyed it. It makes me want to give it a try, that's for sure.
Yes. So it was a tough one, but I'm proud of our list. I am. So,
I'll tell you right now, here's the thing. And this is the great part about Disney. We come up with our list, and we haven't done this in about 6, 7, maybe 8 months. But the interesting part is that sometimes it changes. Why? Because our tastes change. And we are still touching base. Here's a great example. None of us talked about Grand Floridian because neither one of us have actually stayed there.
I have.
Oh, you have? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll take that back. And I won't be able. I'm staying at the villas at the Grand Floridian this summer, so I'll actually have a better point of reference. But at the same time, I mean, what can I tell you? There's just some different things about them that sometimes I think suit my fancy better than others at times. And sometimes you want to purposely stay at a resort for a specific reason. If I was going to spend a lot of time at the Magic Kingdom, yeah, I'll stay at the Contemporary again, or I'll stay at Bay Lake Tower as a DVC member. Definitely, there's a purpose to that. So,
and it's funny you say that because if I specifically am going in October for Hawaiian Food Festival, I will not stay at Poly.
Yeah, you want a beach or Beach Boardwalk, Yacht Club, any of those three, because you're within stumbling distance.
And definitely stumbling distance.
No, but yeah, you coming on. That's good.
That is exactly the true thing, is because I've had people say, hey, Danny, you love Poly so much. Why are you staying at Beach? And I was like, well, it's just convenient sometimes. When I go in March, now this time I decided to just, because of how many how many times I'm going to be there in a calendar year. I had to back my resorts off a little bit. That's why I'm staying lower. But normally this time of year, I would probably be staying at a Poly because of it's going to be more of a Magic Kingdom trip. Or technically, if I was going just for Pandora, this would be an Animal Kingdom trip, an Animal Kingdom lodge. See, I try to, as much as I love these different hotels, I also try to base it off of where I'm going to be participating in which park.
And I think that's a very wise thing to do, especially if you have a purpose-driven trip. This is also why, as a DVC member, if I wanted to go during Food and Wine or any of the festivals around Epcot, trying to stay at the Boardwalk or trying to stay at the Beach Club, being that it's not my home resort, nightmare scenario and trying to get a room on points. Yeah. It's just, it is what it is. But I know that as a DVC member, and I'm not going to argue that. I will say this though. There are just some resorts I still haven't tried. I still haven't tried Yacht Club, and I haven't tried sports or music. Okay. But other than that, I've been to. As I said, I've got a couple planned, which will very much narrow it down for this summer.
Well, speaking of DVC, Chris, I know you wanted to touch on DVC, so I'll pose this to you.
Sure.
We are running a little bit longer than we anticipated.
Okay.
So would you prefer to cram the DVC in, or do you want to hold off and save the DVC conversation for another show?
Let's hold off. I think we wanted to talk a little bit about blue skying if I was an Imagineer type of thing, and I think that'd be a nice way to end our conversation for tonight.
Perfect. So anybody that was looking forward to the DVC, we apologize. This is what happens when we have such a fantastic turnout and we just start talking. Things happen, but I promise you, next week we will talk DVC. Next week, we will put it in the notes. I promise you, next week we will start the show with DVC one of the days. So let's talk blue skies here. I know I've seen people. The big one right now is going to be Star Wars. Can we please get a Star Wars themed hotel built? Okay, hey, if that's what you want built, that's the whole point of this segment, is to talk about blue skies. Chris, do you have any idea of what you would like to do?
This is a very tough question because there are so many different things that I think I would like in a resort. But let me also explain something. I have one of my kids is, grown up, which I hate to say it like that, but she is. And, my son is, in middle school age. So I have different ways of looking at things. Because we've been going to Disney for so long, we do Disney differently than a lot of other people. We do spend a lot of time away from the parks to enjoy the resorts and other things. I will tell you this. If I was to do a resort, I would love to. You know what? I don't think we should have a resort that's pinned down to like just Star Wars. But I would like to say, very much like how they did all-star movies, I would probably say let's have a resort that focuses on modern day Disney non-animated movies. So you have things like Pirates, you have things like Star Wars, you have things like Raiders. Even dare I say, even some of the allowed Marvel characters, or things like that, minus Deadpool. And so that would be bad. So, it'd be kind of cool to have a resort that was themed that way, but hear me out for a second. Not extremely heavily themed. Okay. So maybe you have something that, maybe you have something kind of contemporary that would be along the lines of where Tony Stark would stay as Iron Man. Maybe you have, something that would be like, a theme where the Avengers would stay or something like that. Maybe you do have something that's a little bit spacey where you can say it's either Guardians of the Galaxy or Star Wars or something to that extent. I would really like to take that into consideration, but also it gives it a lot of options to do a lot of things at the resort. Some shopping, some good restaurants, maybe even a lounge for some adult stuff. And and of course, epic pools.
Yeah. Who doesn't love pools?
I know, seriously. You got to have those pools in the summertime. Seriously, you don't do a pool in the summertime. I've got a pool at home. And tell you the truth, I think last year I spent more time in a pool at Disney than I did in my own pool at home.
Yeah, I don't know if Deadpool will get a room. I
just watched part of that again the other day. Don't ask me why, but it's like, oh yeah.
I absolutely love that movie, but I do not see that being able to be put in that. I apologize. Let's see. Sheena says, I would love to see a resort that is themed with Disney classic attractions or areas themed with Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, It's a Small World, Space Mountain, Haunted Mansion, Jungle Cruise, and etc.
Oh, I love that idea.
Very different.
I love it. I mean, I think it's really kind of a cool idea for having an attraction-based hotel. I think that would be cool.
Here's the problem. What if one of them go away?
Well, you can have a classic attraction that's gone. I mean, you can have a Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, themed part of the hotel if you wanted to.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea pool.
There you go. I mean, seriously. I mean, you can even have a Horizons, or a Timekeeper. I mean, or bring back Figment. You knew that had to come out.
Yeah.
And so a classic Disney attraction. That one I like. That is really, really good. And it's possible.
And Andrew goes kind of hand in hand along with Eric. I would love a Walt Disney themed hotel based on his life. And Eric, basically tagged along with that. I would love a Disney archive resort, an ever-changing theme of their history. Those three kind of all go together, and that would be one monster idea.
Now, the cool part is that at Disneyland, they have the Disneyland Hotel, and there's a lot of Walt in that hotel. But the hotel itself is, I don't want to say relatively small because it's actually 4 different buildings, 4 different towers. But I can see where you can go on the same motif and have, a Hall of Walt. I mean, almost like a one man's dream, but hotel style. Something that everybody can enjoy. I think that would really be cool.
Yeah.
Wait, you need a Tower of Terror hotel, and I'll tell you why. Those are when you get into the elevator, they really do drop from floor to floor. Totally unexpected. It may not happen when you're on, but it may happen.
I'm gonna go with, I'm gonna almost take part of Sheena's where it says Tower of Terror. And I'm going to go with what I know Trisha will get super excited for, and that is the villain-themed resort, because, I think that would be so cool. Have Ursula, the Mad Hatter. I would even take, Jack Sparrow. I know that I would take that, not taking him, but I would take that decor also with it with the Pirates of the Caribbean, because you do have a lot of villains from that, and it's a very dark theming attraction, dark theming movie that would go along with a very haunted themed hotel. Now, with that being said, I'm going to go one step beyond and not only make it just villains, but anything that's scary inside the park. So I'm going to take bits of pieces of Tower of Terror, because Tower of Terror, I want Tower of Terror to be my bar and lounge and possibly dinner area.
Ooh, I like that idea.
And I also want some hitchhiking ghosts. And I would bring Haunted Mansion involved in this. And, some people are like, hey, it's too scary for kids. Listen, Disney can make it as scary as they want or not as scary as they don't want. I absolutely would love the idea of a villains themed hotel. I think that would be, people say all the time, oh, Star Wars hotels would, sell out all the time. And absolutely they would. I am not a Star Wars fan. Chris is a Star Wars fan, but we both can honestly sit here and say that hotel would be sold out nonstop. But I think so would the villains. I think you don't realize how many people, because the mainstream, wants you to see Cinderella and Snow White. That's what Disney wants you to see. There's a lot of people who love Ursula.
I mean, there's a lot of people that want a fifth gate that's nothing but villains. I mean, the fact of the matter is that I guarantee you, they make a villains resort. You know what? They'll call like the whirlpools, the heated cauldrons or something like that. I mean, there's just a lot of really cool stuff. And yeah, Kevin, you mentioned, do they even have enough room to build another resort? Guarantee you they can find another. They can find more room.
If you go back and listen to one of our early episodes where we did an interview with Jake from Bright Sun Films about Abandoned, and you watch some of his videos, there is technically room for about 4 more hotels. Technically 3, because one of them is I keep saying technically. It's terrible. One of them is actually on a bad spot of land where they want to build that they've been monitoring for about 15 years to see if anything changes with the land. But yeah, there's plenty of room.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm going to just give Jake a plug. Bright Sun Films over on YouTube. He's got some really cool stuff in regards to abandoned or canceled type plans from Disney. He is a great storyteller. He's been on our show once before. We're actually going to try to have him on again soon. It is going to be a great time. He is a wonderful person. Go check him out over on YouTube. Again, Bright Sun Films.
Villains Resort would save a lot of money on cleaning. Yeah, you would never see it. Just spider webs everywhere.
That's funny.
Honestly, because I mean, when I look back, Tower of Terror. Once you get inside the building, and then Haunted Mansion. Once you start to get into where you can play the accordion inside the queue outside, those to me are in my top 3 best queues inside Disney. That's because of I like that theming.
No, I think so. I would definitely think so. But I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm sure that we can probably talk about that over and over. We may have to actually have another episode just to talk about this, especially if we get some additional input from our viewers and listeners. And don't forget, you could always drop us a line over at BehindEarsPodcast@gmail.com, or feel free to drop over by the Disney Community Facebook page, and feel free to let us know stuff over there too.
Tanya, no, he said Bright, BRIGHT, Bright Sun, SUN Films, Bright Sun, like the big ball of fire in the sky.
And I'm glad you asked, because it's definitely worth the time to go over there.
So Chris, you got anything else you'd like to add to this show?
As we come to a close, I did get a chance to glimpse at some of the comments that people were making. Keep in mind, I don't see exactly what Danny gets to see, but there were some questions about, hey, are we ever going to talk about dining plans and some other parts about trip planning? The answer to that is absolutely yes. The thing is that there's obviously a lot of really great comment suggestions and ideas. Feel free to drop us a line over at BehindEarsPodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to leave us a message over at the Disney Community Facebook page. And we'll be able to, make sure that we, custom design some shows just for people that have those particular questions. We believe that our show is a part of a greater community, and we, get a lot of our ideas from those that are part of this community. And granted, I mean, we have ideas of our own, of course, but we want to really cater to those who watch and listen to us, and we really appreciate all the great ideas. And this is, in essence, a show that is by you and for you.
Yep. So with that being said, guys, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms. Facebook is Behind the Ears Podcast. Lovely pictures on Instagram at Behind the Ears Podcast. You can catch all of our tweets over at Behind the Ears PC. We release this audio version of the show only on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You can find them on iTunes or Podcast Addicts for our Android listeners. Speaking of iTunes, if you guys could just take a moment, even if you guys don't listen on an Apple product, please go on iTunes and rate and review the show. It will gladly help with helping other people find the show and help us climb that ladder. We were actually, as of last night, we had finally cracked the top 50 of most downloaded episodes inside the travel and leisure section. It was a huge milestone for us. And, we want to say a special thank you to all of you guys who go out and rate and review the show and download the show and just becoming a part of this community. And lastly, on my end, like Chris said, just go over to Behind the Ears Podcast at gmail.com and shoot us an email of a show title you'd like to do, whether it's dining, whatever the case is. I love seeing the comments in the section, but to make life easy when it comes to scheduling, if we can have a nice little bag full of stuff in our email address at our email and just go through it that way, it just makes life that much easier. So guys, with that being said, once again, thank you all for joining us here on Behind the Ears Podcast. I am Uncle Danny, and I am signing out.
And I'm Mr. Chris. Thanks once again, everybody, for joining us tonight. We look forward to our next episode with you coming up shortly. And by all means, until we meet again, we hope that you have an absolutely magical day. Thanks a lot, and take care.